Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Ocampo, and I'd like to talk about the development of 1911K. So, first of all, what is the 1911K? It's essentially a knife that is designed to accept 1911 grips. What the 1911 is it's a handgun that was adopted by the U.S. Army in the year 1911. There are approximately 4 million of these handguns in the U.S., and it's very popularly sold to this day. This is actually a spin-off of an existing business, Kern County Knives, which I started back in 2019. So the way this kind of came about was I was working with a lot of small businesses, running consignment deals, just getting familiar with the industry. And I noticed that at trade shows, a lot of our sales where we were mostly successful were individuals who were purchasing pocket knives because they wanted things to match their handguns, or they like the aesthetics of certain things. And so there were also vendors specifically selling 1911 grips. I saw some of these going for as much as $200 to $300 per pair. And so that was, pretty shocking. And so, as I did more research, I found there wasn't really many competitors into this. And so I created a few prototypes. And when I did find a competitor, I noticed theirs was a bit more gimmicky. And so after going through customer validation, I developed a product that I think people were fairly happy with. So the design concept is essentially you've got 1911s, these handguns that are made by a ton of manufacturers. They've been around for over 100 years. Of them. And so what remains consistent among them is essentially the grip that is put on them. And a lot of people use them very decoratively. A lot of my grandparents in Mexico spent a lot of time decorating the 1911 grips as well. And so we took those grips, created a knife concept, and then on the right we have these early prototypes. And so where I was before the accelerator, I essentially had a homemade prototype. I went out, bought machinery, learned how to make knives, learned how to do heat treating processes, really just started from nothing. I had a pretty rough business model. I had very limited leads on production and not very much customer validation at the time, just basically what I had observed from doing trade shows and just speaking to individuals. And so where I'm at now, I've sourced a computer-aided design, a CAD prototype. So I've got the CAD software for that. I have a much more realistic business model, an abundance of potential production outlets, a much better marketing approach, wider range of business to business and business to customer options. And most importantly, a much better understanding of customer validation. Recently we had one of our trade shows that I attended, and so I got along with the individuals that were selling these $300 grips, and because these are the individuals where my product complements theirs considerably well, they love the idea, and so I figured this was a good opportunity to kind of extract more information from them and their customers, and it seems like the product has to be made domestically for it to be something they want to carry. They really care about the quality over the price. They would like to see a few different sizing options. They do like the blade chip that I originally designed, and they really want the brand engraving because as they're selling these $300 accessories, they want essentially some kind of branding to represent, not just a nameless brand. And so what are the next steps? The next steps for me are to work with these existing customers that I've met with, or these existing retailers, supply the custom 1911 jewelry shops. I'll explain a little bit as to what those are. I believe that's a really great ideal entrance outlet for me. Then supplying nice distributors where we're going to be focusing more on the volume and wholesale. And then lastly, the licensing side of things, where I hope to eventually build a brand that I can or the brand and designs that I can then license out. And so in regards to supplying 1911 jewelry shops, what these are is they're essentially jewelry stores that tend to offer gold plating services for firearms and custom 1911 grips. There are a considerable amount of that I've spoken with. And they're predominantly independently owned, which is great. That's part of what makes them really great for the starting point. I've had the pleasure of speaking with independently owned businesses in the past while I was supplying the Kern County knives from my prior business. And this also opens up the opportunity for consignment opportunities, which is great when you're talking to individually owned businesses because it mitigates a lot of the financial risk that they take on. So the goal is then to begin production of domestic inventory batches, so small batches. This will allow me to kind of work on the brand development, work on control the product a bit more. And so as we're looking at these companies, we're looking at average prices for their grips of $200 to $300. And there are about 20 potential starting locations that I'm quite familiar with that we can start approaching. The second step, after establishing ourselves within that industry, I'd like to move towards supplying knife distributors where the focus is going to be on volume and wholesale. This is going to involve leveraging the previous sales and existing contacts, transitioning to mass production and potentially even manufacturing independently. This is also a good opportunity to focus on the brand recognition side and the brand loyalty, which is getting very important for the next step. And the average cost of a product like this within these knife distributors usually goes for $150 to $200. And then, the last step is essentially going to be licensing, where the goal is to license the designs and the branding. So this is going to involve leveraging the brand recognition, brand sales, as well as the existing contacts with reputable brands such as Smith & Wesson, which I've worked with in the past, as they do have a knife department. The interesting thing about them is they actually released a knife to go with one of their 1911 handguns, and they were selling that for $150, but normally that knife with those specs would go for around $60. So the branding on its own added a amount of value. And so that's why the licensing is so important. And so this is where we transition to more of a royalty structure and also more of a design lab. And so lastly, I'll get into the finances of things. So within the custom jewelry stores is one of our first steps. The goal is essentially, currently I can manufacture this for about $40, sell it to these jewelry stores for around $80, and they will probably mark it up to $120, $140, even $150. The profitable margin for me on my end is about $40 per unit. As we switch over to the knife distributors, the costs go down as we start producing in larger batches or slightly mass production. The revenue increases on our end from $100 to $100 per unit, leaving us with profit of $70 to $75. In regards to licensing, we're looking at more of a royalty structure of about 10% based on sales, so it's about $10 to $20 per knife. And so the first year goals are essentially to land. I've got about 20 starting locations for the jewelry stores, but I plan to start with this one to get as many of those as I can, and then essentially, I would say, branch out and try and get a total of 20. Hopefully they can average about 5 per month in sales. And essentially our total sales comes up to about 100 units a month. Our revenue is about $8,000 a month, profits $4,000. And as we kind of scale this up, the volume increases. And so to kind of summarize everything, if we can reach first year goals for each individual outlet, we're looking at a total revenue of about $282,000. Total profits between $189,000 to $196,000. And this is just based on one product line. And so as I'm kind of wrapping this up, I hope that I did a pretty good job of exemplifying how this program has helped accelerate this business idea.